Welcome to VFXwire's podcast. In this episode, senior visual effects artists and company founder Scott Chambers tells us how he started up a visual effects company amid the writers' and actors' strikes. He tells us what thoughts he had when starting the company, how he went about doing it, finding and bidding work, and how he coped during the strikes. He also tells about his hopes and wishes for the company 808 Limited in the future.
I started 808 Limited after being in an ongoing role in the same company for 12 years and thinking I wanted to do more and taking a slightly different path. I had this idea of working closely with new talent and running a boutique studio, and so I did. Just in time for Hollywood to go into a panic. Watching the drama unfold, the old saying, there never is a good time to start something, really resonated with me. But we managed, and we're progressing with optimism and growth. From creating a brand to building a rudimentary pipeline with a couple of machines at home to moving into a studio setting up a team, it's been rewarding to watch an idea in my head unfold in real life, not without its challenges and obstacles, but that's what I've got myself in for. I want to share a few anecdotes for 3 reasons. 1, if others are thinking about doing the same, I hope to be of some inspiration. 2, to perhaps show people there can be a new wave of VFX studios that can do things somewhat differently. And 3, I guess a little bit of a deep dive into 808 Limited for our current and future clients to display some of our capabilities and hopefully show where our values align. So I knew there was a potential for creating a next generation VFX studio. And coming from almost 25 years in the industry, I felt like it was time for a change for me as well. So I decided to create a space where humans can behave like humans, be kind, share knowledge and experiences, and ultimately do great work. I had the idea of growing the company here at the bottom of the world in New Zealand, going after projects from overseas and also supporting our local filmmaking community, which in turn would be creating local jobs and providing excellent service to our clients, both local and international. But in the beginning, it was all just a dream. So I had to get moving into some sort of reality. And I do believe one of the hardest things is getting through your own personal fears of the unknown. And it's not just VFX, it's in many other industries and many people around the world in all walks of life, leaving their comfort zone to get out there and do something new. I had no experience in bidding, hiring, building infrastructure of a business, or handling things such as security compliance, audits for clients. So it was kind of hard to have the self-belief initially to pull this off. But I was so fortunate to reconnect with colleagues that had previously gone out and set up their own studios and were further down the track than myself, a few years out. And with their generosity and real insights on sort of how to set up and how to get going and their kind of confidence boosting discussions really did help get me going, get the optimism to outweigh the concern. So to begin with, I just started with the simple mechanics of setting up a business in New Zealand, which is registering, creating a brand. And thankfully, these things are relatively easy to do here. Most of it's online and it's relatively cost effective. And like many entrepreneurs in the world, not just VFX, again, other industries kind of start off out of your bedroom or out of your front room in my case, which I had a little kind of scaled down studio essentially. I had a workstation, a little mini render farm of a couple of machines and just starting to look at sort of integrations and tracking work and a little bit of an I/O kind of thing. Also always with the idea of security behind the methodology of doing the work, but early days it's like you're just getting set up and getting going. So when it was time to reach out for clients, I kind of just contacted everyone and anyone that I kind of worked with over the years, and obviously ones that are closer to potential decision makers, whether they are themselves or they're more in the industry, like as producers or company owners. And I just keep plugging away at it, there's no shame, I don't think, in business. Well, I definitely don't feel that. I just feel like you've got to get out there. You're not going to get a yes every single time, but that's just part of the process. And if you don't get the no's, you're not going to get the yeses. So the initial first job I had was just me, which was great to get the pipeline going. I wouldn't really want to subject other people to my crazy ways of working in those days. So it was kind of good that it was just me, but this was quite helpful as well because it enabled me to build a little bit of capital to kind of get going with the biz, growing the biz into more of a studio. So that meant, making some okay money and putting that into equipment to kind of keep going. It's that kind of bootstrapping mentality where you do some work, you get some money, you invest the money in the infrastructure and kind of keep going and keep sort of leveling up that way. The other thing that was important to me personally was to have a bit of a buffer in terms of savings for me and the fam. And we're looking at about, they call it a runway, a 6-month runway. So that really, for me, took pressure off as well to get going, is not to be stressed out about money right from the get-go. Had enough money invested into equipment that I knew I could do the work and had enough money in savings. So I knew, if it was going to be quiet for a while, that's okay too. So I'd really recommend that if you're going to be doing something similar. Just if you're fine with the great unknown of not knowing what the next day could bring, and you're happy about finding money from wherever to pay for that, and that go for it. But definitely would recommend a little bit of a buffer. And the other thing that's great about that too is you really try and not make decisions coming from a fair basis or sort of hurried. I've got to take this next thing because of this, because I need to pay something the next week. Really found that helpful. Having the ability to say no to jobs, and that ability came from savings essentially. We didn't feel pressured into taking stuff, and it's that kind of mentality I think will carry through. It's the best we can with the business. It's just try and slow and steady, build up a little bit of savings, and keep looking for those great connections with clients, where we can both be profitable and do great work, and not one side's more disadvantaged than the other kind of thing. And I think, that comes back to bad alignment sometimes with, clients and providers, service providers. Making the wrong decisions at the wrong time out of whatever reasons. But a lot of them come down from, being unorganized or being fearful, I guess. Finding a team was a challenge as well, especially for me in this part of the world. We do have a rather large company down the road that a lot of people have probably heard of, and it's kind of made New Zealand famous. But currently, it's slightly different league to us. We are fully invested in training new talent coming through, so we're really all over the tertiary institutes. LinkedIn came to the rescue for me as well. Just finding anyone and everyone who had kind of an inkling in visual effects, or even just movie making in Wellington or could tell who had some kind of digital skills, and I'd make contact and kind of pitch what we're doing, and knowing that I have to kind of train what we needed from almost nothing, which was takes a lot of time, but it's turned out to be quite rewarding and quite an important part of our business. So now we have a lot of these Padawans, these kind of newbies coming through that have done fantastic, and we do pair them up with more industry sort of veterans and more experienced, myself and others that we have on board. So we've kind of got a healthy mix of that kind of old school, been through, battle tested, seen it all. Well, you can't really see it all, I guess, in this industry, but seen a lot, mixed with the sort of young and hungry coming through, which is really fantastic for us. Having a team and studio set up, we were pretty much ready to hit the ground running in early 2022. But unbeknownst to us, the universe had other plans. So the writers and actor strikes in Hollywood put a stop to a lot of potential connections for us, specifically outreach. As productions were shut down or postponed, people simply weren't that keen on talking about work when there wasn't the work or new projects coming through. and I don't blame them. And it was, it's kind of not awkward, but it's like you've got to read the room a little bit. If they're having tough time themselves, you can't really come after them saying, yeah, we need work, we need work, because they do as well. But it's just continuing to make those connections and try and start relationships and try and find where we can be helpful to other businesses or, studios or freelance supervisors and producers who we're going after. But last year, this tough year, 2023, we did do okay. And that came through our persistence for making connections with people around the world. A big part of what we do is studio overflow, essentially. We help where we can other studios that potentially have taken on a little bit too much, or they've had sequences come on that they kind of weren't expecting and they need a little help to get done. And so we were fortunate to have that, through making those connections and finding those additional helper jobs was really great for us, and sort of hindsight for last year getting through, because our kind of balance between direct with clients to overflow swung heavily to overflow in the last months of 2023, which was us catching the tail end of a lot of productions who hadn't been affected by the strikes, because essentially they're shot before it all happened. So that was really great for us last year. We get that question quite a bit. It's like, how'd you go, kind of thing. And it's like, luckily, not too bad. So I think, relationships with collaborators, our clients are a hard one to control for any business, especially a young, growing one. There is a tendency to try and say yes to everything, but I think it kind of sets a bad precedent if you do start doing that. And I know it's a bit of a luxury to say, oh, we're only going to work with great clients, but if you can do it, that's the best way. That's what you should be aiming for, I think. And then again, that comes down to sort of our methodology, or our ethos of kind of building it slow, having reserves, finding the right relationships, because there'll be relationships sometimes where we're not the right fit, and it can be kind of from 2 points of view. One, it can be like we're not there yet, we're not big enough, we don't have the capabilities, we're not going to be able to do a good job essentially for the client. I mean, we'd do our absolute best, but we're just not a good fit in terms of, in that example, a job that essentially would be too big for us. And the other end of the spectrum is, a client coming to us with maybe a limited budget, looking for our help. That's not great use of their money. They are looking for something potentially a little bit more cost effective in the terms of kind of the output that they're looking for is maybe tailored to more kind of student work, or that kind of one person band kind of thing, which is, there's definitely viable, definitely a market for that, but we're not that. We come with a kind of fully featured, security enclaved studio with some great people, and sometimes it's overkill essentially for clients. So we have to find the right fit. It's not too much and not too light. It's that kind of Goldilocks thing, I think. And we're always thinking about what it would be like to take us on for the show. We try and put ourselves in the client's shoes, and make sure it's a good fit for them and for us. And we've been lucky, and the shows we have been great. Great relationships with our clients. So, you do have to have that mentality of growing through the kind of quieter periods or the early startup phases, finding clients that are appropriate for you at your size and your abilities. Just not saying yes to everything, because that can negatively impact on you on a few ways. One, I think just the kind of the vibe of what you're putting out there, for your crew and for yourself. If everyone knows, it's like, oh no, we've got to do this. It's, the clients yells at us, they're not paying us much, it's last minute, we're going to do overtime, all those kind of situations would be the most unideal, I'd say, situations to be in. But moving forward, having that growth mindset where it's like, we'll be okay, we're just going to take it easy, we'll figure out this doesn't sound right for us. Sure, we might not have a lot of work coming in, but it's probably better that we don't take something that's not a good fit, and then figure out ways forward, and just being optimistic about the future, I guess. So yeah, you have to keep pushing forward, but on the other hand, you might need to turn down stuff every now and then. It's just part of the game, I think. A part of taking it easy and figuring it out was finding a solution for getting through periods of the dreaded downtime without going under. And thankfully, yet never had the moment where I thought we couldn't make it, which is really fortunate, I guess. You hear of others, maybe not all in VFX, but, new businesses, startups can be pretty up and down, and there can be some dark times. But thankfully, those dark times haven't hit us yet. So we keep pushing forward, which is fantastic. And I think a big part of what we've done is just being cautious, and just basically just trying to go slow and trying to find, like mentioned before, the right kind of matches for us and our ability, and growing at a kind of nice, slow, steady pace, essentially. And we've got a buffer, which really does help. We're not sort of $1 away from going out of business. We do have a runway as a business, and I've touched on that about personally as well. There's kind of a split there now for me, that I have a personal buffer and then a business buffer, which is fantastic. So there will always be downtime, I'd imagine. Even the biggest and the best of them will have quieter periods where we need to pivot, essentially. There'll be, I guess, the opposite of a quieter period in VFX is just like full-on production. And yeah, no one has full-on production all the time unless they can get lucky with teeing up a whole bunch of shows in a row, which is not quite us yet, but maybe one day. So we found the only way to really mitigate this at the moment is to just always be on the lookout for new biz, no matter what. It sounds, it's a bit luxurious to say this, but it can feel a bit like a grind when you have work. It's like, oh man, we've got work. Why am I spending all this time to find more work? But it's really important to always do that, I think. And landing more work. There's R&D, there's test shots, there's pipeline work we can do, and we like the people we hire, the people we grow with. We want them to be involved with all that kind of stuff too. So we are able to jump onto such tasks when we are a little quieter to help bolster us for next time round. We'll get in touch with previous clients and show them what we're doing, and try and get them excited and us, happy and excited with them, talking about future capabilities and possibilities for work. So I really don't think that's wasted. The only downside to that maybe is if you were super worried about running out of cash. Again, cash is king. And we can build in a little bit of that buffer to spend some of this downtime, So we're fortunate. And then we can also take this downtime and focus on the other foundational aspect of 808, which is new trainees, coming through the next gen, youngsters, basically, not exclusively youngsters. We're open to anyone, essentially, but, there's a lot of young and hungry university or even younger people out there, looking to get into this industry and do some fun stuff. And yeah, we're all about it. We're trying to find them, trying to bring them in. We always have spare workstations. Even if we grow into them, we get more. To have these mentors come through, it's a casual arrangement initially. It's just come in. We've got lots of training material. We get to see how they're working. They get to see how we're working, and then over time, that can lead to contracts. So it's definitely something important to us. We keep working on. So another aspect we get asked about quite a lot as a small business is deciding how to price your work and how to ultimately win clients. So pricing is an intricate process, but essentially it depends on your profit margin expectations above your cost of sales and overheads. And of course, this means also meeting your client expectations and what the market's prepared to pay. So this is going to be the main driving force. You're going to have to make sure your total cost of business, including profit margins, stack up for you to keep going. Kind of business 101, if you're good with spreadsheets at home, you're good with paying rent, mortgage, bills, all that kind of stuff's really going to help you business-wise, because you need to know exactly how much things are costing to give you that kind of baseline of, if we do this job and they pay us this much, is it going to break even? Is it good? Are we going to be running at a loss, which essentially means you're paying for the privilege, or is there going to be a bit of profit in there to help you get going? It's going to be on you to decide where that mix kind of lands. But yeah, ultimately you got to know your numbers, because if you don't, then you're kind of flying blind a little bit, and you run the risk of hitting that money wall. We basically run out. And the other thing about bids is it's down to a few factors aligning, really. Like, I wouldn't say luck, but maybe, good fortune. First, you have to come across, the right client, looking for the right kind of work that you can do at the right time, for the right money, and, for the right size team that you have, essentially. So all these things have to kind of come together. You can be the best visual effects studio in the world, and if your client's sort of not ready, or it's something you haven't done before or something, it's not gonna align, and I'm sure it happens with the big players as much as the small ones. Is timing's so critical, and to try and figure out that timing and make that work well for you is just scattergun approach, I think. Just the more and more connections you can make and discussions you can make, the more the odds are in favor of having something come along that just fits right. So keep at it, and the stars will align at some point. Growth comes from challenges, and looking back is a great indicator of how we adapt and how we can improve going forward. The biggest curveball for us in 2023 was definitely the writers and actors strikes in Hollywood. Luckily, as mentioned before, we had some regular ongoing work from existing projects that were in late stages of production. And we're really grateful for those clients and those opportunities that we had back then to get us through. So the next challenge for us is anticipating growth, really, is making sure our infrastructure keeps up, onboarding with new artists is done correctly, which means sharing knowledge and sharing techniques. We dive heavily into our wiki, locally hosted wiki, which is all text and all images and videos as well, which helps not only remind us some cool stuff that we did, but also newcomers and showing them what we have done previously and how some of the pipeline works. So that's really important to us too. Another thing that's really important is looking back and, being humble and being grateful for everything that's gone on, to get us where we are. It's really sort of fast but measured growth experience, like everything's kind of new, especially for people that've been in larger studios for a while. It's kind of been done for you, maybe decade or two before someone else had to go through all those kind of learning experiences, but now we're doing it as a team, and it's great. It's humbling and it's encouraging, and the old saying about looking back to figure out how you're going to move forward or where you are going to move forward to. I think that's important. Even sort of micro moments of that, like what last week, how were we doing? What's changed? Are we better last month? 2 months, a year, whatnot. It's a great thing to do, I think. So at 808, our core is compositing. That's definitely my background and our team. And I might be a little biased, but I think that's a really great place to add value. As a small studio coming up, to be compositing based, because we're super fast and nimble. Get plates in, we do some awesome stuff with it. We send it back. But now we're starting to introduce more CG components. We're doing hard surface modeling, set extensions, some effects, and we're also using the latest in AI and ML as well, which, to varying degrees of success. I think it's a little bit overhyped at the moment, but time will tell. But it's definitely something we've got our finger on the pulse, as it were. Another thing will be for us is a move to a new location. We're in a really cozy single room currently. It's a big room, but it's cozy. We've made it nice, but we've kind of maxed it out, I think. So definitely a move will be in the cards at some point, which would be fun. Definitely taking it to the next level. Again, part of our kind of ethos or mentality of preparing, if we move somewhere bigger where it will be oversized initially, with room to grow, which will feel good, better than feeling cramped. But we're not quite cramped yet, but I feel like we will be soon. We are definitely optimistic for things to come. It's a crazy business out there, but it can be a super rewarding business. I'm new in it. Ask me again in a few years down the track. But I think there's real possibility, not only for us in New Zealand here, around the world, to do something like this. If you're thinking about it, I really recommend really seriously thinking about it, because it's worthwhile. And I think the more of us in the world, these small boutique studios they're very much client and artist focused, which you'd think everyone would be, but maybe not. Maybe there's sort of kind of corporate layers of running a huge business kind of get in the way a little bit. But I think as smaller studios, we can be pretty nimble, do some great work, have great relationships with our clients, which are typically very close relationships, because we're so small. There's no the kind of middle layers of any sort of management or business kind of getting in the way. We're definitely optimistic for the future. And I just want to say thanks for listening if you've made it all the way through. And thank you to VFXwire for having us on. It's been a real pleasure. And please, anyone who has any more questions or wants to reach out, just look us up and get in contact. Thank you very much.
You have been listening to VFXwire, a channel that promotes the arts and sciences of the visual effects industry and the studios and artists behind the scenes. Please send us a like and subscribe so we can continue this important work. Till next time.